Yes.
May I have a motion? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes passed unanimously. I'd like to start right on item 26 and invite Ms. Ziegler to the table.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Would you like to tell us a little bit about this?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Good evening. We have been working with Albany Police Department for the last several years regarding their gun involved violence initiative. We have supported them through various means, and one was through being a pass-through to the trauma response team. They've changed it up this year a little bit. I think we're going to do something more in-house, but we're still looking for cooperation and collaboration with crime victims. What that would really mean for us is that it's our job. So if this is folks who have gun-involved violence, it could be a shooting or a homicide. It could also involve serious stabbings or significant violence in the community, where we would do outreach to the family, to the victim, and to the community in general, really looking to kind of change the narrative in terms of retaliation, more toward healing and transformation. So it's what we do, but again, it's getting notified by law enforcement that a serious event did happen, so that we are really poised. We're not waiting to hear later. We're actually able to kind of jump on that really quickly, and hopefully, again, changing that energy in the community.
Any questions from the speakers? All in favor?
I'll move it.
Oh, sorry. Motion?
Motion?
Seconds?
Yeah.
For Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Passes unanimously. And then back to the beginning.
25?
We'll wait for you.
All right, okay, yep.
So,
Yes, that's right, the exception change, yep.
items 1 through 5 are being tabled. Item 6.
Yes, this is my local law, isn't it?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm interested in having this moved out tonight.
Any questions for Mr. Higgins?
I know we had a
Public hearing.
public hearing on this. When was it?
I think in October?
Of what year? Of last year?
Yeah. Yep.
I know that there are people in our caucus that would probably like to go further than 29.
Sure.
What I would ask you to do would be to move it out without a recommendation and be willing to support it, but maybe there could be some dialogue to see where folks are. Because I know we as a group have not had an
Yeah,
opportunity
I know.
to discuss
Yeah,
a
Peter had his
number.
own.
Yes. So
Yeah, if you want to move it out without rec, I'm open to that.
yeah, okay, I would make that motion.
I'll second.
Seconds on the motion?
Second.
All in favor of moving without recommendation?
Aye.
Can you
Any
add me
opposed?
as a customer?
One opposed.
Had to use it goes well.
Passes 6 to 1. Item 7 is being tabled. Item 8 is also being tabled. And let's turn to item 9, please. Joanne?
Yeah.
Redistricting.
So in the packet is the current proposed local law. The first copy shows the changes, and then the second version is the accepted changes. I would like to move this out tonight. I know we had last night one speaker, yet again, who has appeared before us before, who I've been working rather closely with, and I would say this last version incorporates many of the changes, and she identified them last night, so I'm ready to move this.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I know there was only one of the sponsors there at the public hearing. The sponsor who represents our group was not there. We did not have an opportunity prior to this being published to see it. It was published with the minority leader's name on it, which was inaccurate, which heightens the need for us to be able to see things before they go to be published, as we asked at the last county legislative meeting. Our conference continues to have the very same issue that the League of Women Voters highlighted, the change that they recommended, which was the mechanism of supporting, of choosing the last 5 members. We have that as a position. So I, on behalf of our conference, cannot support moving it out as it is. And I would like to see if anybody would be willing to consider the discussion of the adoption of that recommendation of the League of Women Voters. Because I think, I'm speaking for myself, but I know I've spoken to our minority leader, is that if we could have a unanimous selection of those 5 members, and given the current leadership of the legislature, I couldn't imagine Bill Clay and Andrew Joyce and Frank Moriello and Dennis Feeney not agreeing to 5 people. I think we could all move on and have something that we would be proud of, that would not be subject to any controversy. One of the things that was raised, was you have to have a mechanism that ensures that a decision were made. Well, you might find yourself roadblocked at 2-2 as well, and there's no majority from 2-2. So there has to be some consensus building among the group. And so what I'm asking people to do here today is to say, everybody says that everyone is of goodwill and is looking to compromise and looking to do the right thing in the non-partisan. I'm asking you not to put one group in a position where it can be voted down 3-1 and possibly only have one person on a reapportionment committee who they feel comfortable with. So I'm asking you tonight, the members that are here, whether or not there is any sympathy or any merit in adopting the League of Women Voters' suggestion of unanimous choice, or, they suggested some other mechanisms that other folks had in other counties, et cetera. Because if we could do that tonight, I think we could all move forward together.
Ms. Cunningham?
So just a couple things, and Paul, you and I have talked about this, so this won't be new. We debated as a committee that exact provision 2 law committee meetings ago. So that provision has not changed, and I think Paul made very good arguments. There was pushback from members of this committee, and that's why it stayed the way it is. I see this very differently. The mechanism is for the commission, the majority, minority, LBC, and chair each choose one person. In my mind, if I were one of those people, I would be thinking to myself, who is the smartest, most deliberative, thoughtful, expert person I can put on that commission that I would be proud to select, whose credibility and integrity are impeccable. I would not view that person as my person. I would view that person as the commission's individual. I would hope that the other 3 individuals, and I'm sure that they would equally select a person, one of those 4, who are equally credible and full of integrity and expert and thoughtful and practical and all of that. So then you have those 4 individuals. Those 4 individuals then select the other 5. And that's the subject of what was just raised. I fully expect, and maybe someday you and I will have a drink and we'll laugh about this, because my expectation, and this is on the basis of my experience in serving on many town committees and task forces, where you have a group of people who are picking additional groups of people. And I look to the Bethlehem Town Board, which is not all Democrats. 9 times out of 10, when they pick members of a commission or task force or committee, it's a unanimous choice, because they get a selection of resumes, they interview people, and at the end of it, everybody's impressions seem to be, wow, this person has the credibility to stand in this group. So I fully expect, even without that unanimous requirement that you're suggesting, that these selections are going to be unanimous, probably most of the time, if not all of the time. And that's just because, let me finish, I think when you get 4 credible, highly expert individuals in a room, and their job is a very important role in the County of Albany to serve on this commission, this redistricting commission, that they will look at the group, do the interviews, and pick the best people. I don't think it's going to be a partisan, oh, I'm going to pick this person because, Dennis Feeney wants me to pick that person. I think these people will be taking this role very seriously, especially because of the past history of the county. But notwithstanding all of that, I would be comfortable with that language, but the committee was not.
Who was the committee?
We debated that 2 committee meetings ago.
Well, no, as a matter of fact, we could play the tape, and there was discussion of that, and people didn't say, and we said we would, you said that you would take the discussion under advisement. I know that our sponsor came to you and asked you to do it. I know that the League of Women Voters came to you and asked you to do it. And this is really, I guess what I'm saying is, we're putting something in the charter, which means it is going to be permanent. It is going to be there long after most of us have left. And the goodwill that may exist, that you hope will happen today, may not be what people look at 20 years from now. 20 years from now, somebody says, oh, everybody gets 1, then we vote, and whoever gets 3 votes, those are the rest of the 5. And that's the way it is, because that's what the words say. So you're the eternal optimist. But you've got to take a look at this from our perspective, which is at every turn, the role of our caucus and the people we represent in Albany County was diminished at every single turn and every iteration. And I represent Republicans, Democrats, and independents. And if we can't reach a consensus on those 5, you almost got to wonder what the problem is. So, once again, it's not something that I can vote for. It's not something that most of the people in my caucus will vote for. And it's going to, it has a tendency to be problematic. So, you can decide what folks want to do.
Can I just also finish
Sure.
Because that was just one piece of it. The other thing I would say is this local law has gone through so much change. It's been rewritten and rewritten and rewritten. And every time an issue was raised, we went back to the table and sat down and debated it. So there have been many, many changes that we have made in response to the league's position, to the different sponsors. The 3 of us, Peter and Wanda and I, There was a lot of discussion on specific things that folks wanted there. You know, I put back some things, actually I put back something that you felt very strongly with, and that is the prohibition on lobbyists, which, you know, I decided that you made a good point and fine. I think at the end of the day, there are things in this that not every single person is going to agree with every single word on the page. But that's what compromise is all about. And this is a compromise product, and it took almost 3 years to get this done. And at the end of the day, yeah, there's things in here that I'm not particularly happy about. And I think that Peter would say the same, I think Wanda would say the same. I think that the list of sponsors would say the same. It's ready. I think we have a product that we can be proud of. I think there's, you know, when I last spoke with the league representatives, which were right before the hearing, and I've been in pretty near constant communication with them. There's much of these changes that went to this final public hearing are the league's changes, and I think we've moved a lot to get there. But again, not everybody is going to like every single word on the page, but I'm comfortable with it. I think it's a quality product that we can be proud of. I think it addresses the weaknesses that were in the prior language. I think it stands up, and I'm very happy to present it and move it out tonight.
The other people on the committee who want to comment? Sam?
I'll just say I agree with Joanne. I know that this has gone through many different changes over the months. Joanne and the other sponsors have put in a lot of work. I think there's always going to be some, no matter what we do, there's always going to be some issue that someone could point out, and if we keep delaying it, we'll never vote on it. I think we're at the point where this has really undergone a lot of scrutiny. It probably isn't perfect in everyone's perspective, as Joanne said, but it's a, you have to make compromises on these things to make sure that everyone is happy with, everyone's happy with it, and I think this is something everyone can be generally happy with, not happy with every single piece of it maybe, but I think it's time to vote on it.
Is that a motion, Mr. Flynn?
Sure, that's a motion.
Do I have a
Yeah.
second?
Motion for favorable recommendation.
Is there a second? Second. I should let you make the motion.
No, it's okay. I'm very happy to have Sam.
All right, then, Ms. Cunningham is second. All in favor of moving with a favorable recommendation? 6. And
6.
all opposed? And 1.
Just one.
Passes 6-1. Thank you, everybody. Mr. Hidley, you're next.
He is not.
10 through 16 are being tabled. 17, I believe we have some additional information on.
It was 18. It was 18.
Oh, it's 18.
It was 18.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I would say, I know,
17 is tabled, thank you.
yeah, just Mr. Drake asked that I hand out, he has an amendment, just for T, he couldn't be here tonight, I know he's caught between a kid's broken wrist and traffic as well, but basically, there's been, I know he's gotten some feedback on local law T, and it's being played out in real life for us down in Dutchess and Ulster County, and so after the feedback he's gotten, the only amendments that are being made are on the back side of the page regarding the effective date. After consulting with some folks and seeing what's going on elsewhere, Mr. Drake's decided to remove the referendum portion because, and also, as you can see, the effective date wouldn't be until 2021, therefore it would not affect this term, and so the understanding is that since it doesn't affect the current term, it would not actually qualify as a referendum. That's why it's being pulled out, and so he's making it an amendment to the intent be 3 terms, 12 years total, but it wouldn't start until 2023 and everyone starts at 0.
It says 2021.
Right, and in the language of the law, it says that no partial credit shall count.
Okay.
So that would be a partial term and therefore wouldn't count. But he just would ask for people's comments and is probably going to look to move it next month. Thank you.
Okay. So that being said, 18 is then tabled.
Yeah.
Thank you. 19 19 is tabled. And 20, plastic bag bans. Also tabled. Thank
Is
you.
this, Joanne, is the idea to amend the plastic bag
Yeah.
bill to do 5 cents?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that before May 2nd, so.
I will remain as a sponsor on that.
I'll send it out.
And 21 is tabled, 22 is tabled pending public hearing, and 23 is also tabled for some amendments.
What's that? Oh, you did.
Those people did a good job.
What?
They did an excellent job.
Yeah.
It's not It's the beneficial.
On what?
No, 20.
Have you been going through this yet?
No.
They have some of the loudest clappers I've ever heard. Your ears must have been ringing. Just some of the loudest clapping I've ever heard. Your ears had to be ringing.
It looks like I happen in place.
You're in the last row.
Doug, would you like to talk about 24 at all?
I'd just like to move to a public hearing.
Do we have a final
Do we,
word?
Mr. Bullock, we haven't received any amendments. We understood you're making some amendments. The committee hasn't seen any amendments, nor have I, nor has, as far as I understand, others. So
The final wording isn't ready yet.
When's it gotta be ready for, so that it could be published properly?
So this would be first. Typically, we have some language to move forward on. In terms of amendments, in my experience, we never move forward without something from the committee.
When are amendments due before?
So as we talked about so we have to, in terms of the open meetings law, we have to get it posted to the newspapers 5 days before the public hearing itself. So in this case, the public hearing for May, I believe, is May 28th. Now looking at a calendar, I can't tell you, but the schedule's a little complicated because one of our official newspapers only publishes every 2 weeks. So at the very latest, you would need to have it to the newspapers. The legislative meeting is on May 8th. We would need to get it to the papers that next Thursday, which, again, I don't have a calendar in front of me. So the short of it is, yes, you could move without seeing it. Typically, we don't move on things without seeing, generally, we don't move on things without seeing language that's being amended.
Madam Chair, I mean, it appears that this is having the potential to become the new normal, which is, we don't get to see what happens here. We just say, hold a public hearing, and then it pops up. Doesn't get shared with the committee. It gets posted on the web. Gets posted erroneously with the wrong sponsors. People don't know what the words say. They don't even know if they want to continue to be on the bill. Now, I'm not on the bill, so that's not my instance here, but that happened recently. But this is not, in my estimation, this is not the due diligence that a committee would provide before sending something out. So that's my 2 cents.
If I may, just as a matter of explanation, that they're looking at the calendar right now, but part of the reason for the delay is me being absent for several weeks, so just putting that out there, that's part of what was going on. Mr. Hughes?
I would just, I understand it's a rather unique circumstance that we're sort of dealing with here. That being said, the language is going to be made available, it's going to be put up on the website, it's going to be posted, people will have a chance to review it prior to the public hearing. Given the extenuating circumstances, I mean, I'm willing to move this out. It is just a public hearing. We've gone through, like, the redistricting, numerous public hearings on these larger, bigger bills, and it's the type of thing I would really like to wrap up sooner or later with a vote, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I mean, we're not even into May. So if the public hearing is the end of May, there's ample time to, and a statutory requirement to have it available to not just the legislature, but the public, which it sounds like we will have well in hand. You know, it's a public hearing, we're not moving a piece of legislation, it's a public hearing to enable us to hear from the public. You know, I mean, yes, we could on Monday night, the 13th, have a public hearing to report it out, and I don't know if we would make it, but if we're gonna do all this anyway, and it's coming, you know, nobody's trying to, you know, be secretive. You know, we made the statutory deadline for the redistricting legislation, and yes, somebody's name was not on there, or was on there incorrectly, but come on, we're trying to move the legislative process. We only meet once a month. I think we should be a little flexible when we can, and it's a public hearing. Which is a good thing on any topic for us to have showcased. I think we have ample time to meet the deadlines that you're meeting, and I think you'll certainly be, it sounds like getting the language of the amendments, and with Vicky's absence, I think we should be a little flexible.
Mr. Bergen?
I'd like to point out that the constituency here is 28,000 businesses in Albany County. 28,000 that employ almost 200,000 people. So getting the word out with 72 hours notice to meet the structural,
5 days.
It's 5 days.
5 days, excuse me, 5 times 24.
Just because of the
whatever.
nature of the public hearing. It's
Yeah, but
3 days.
But the point is, if you really want public input, you've got to give the affected communities an opportunity. I mean, last time, notwithstanding, at this meeting, we said with redistricting, oh, we'll get it to you sooner. That date, that's the absolute last. You'll see it way before then. We'll get it to council. Council was going to circulate it. I asked council where it was nowhere. Council hadn't seen it. So I think we're in a situation here where we have a huge constituency that's being impacted. And if you want to do this in a transparent way, you're going to give the people who are impacted the ability to look at the language, digest it. Some of them are going to want to talk to their lawyers about it. This is not, you're talking about potentially impacting 28,000 businesses in this county.
I'm willing to have it by May 17th, which is a week ahead of the deadline here. So what we can't do here.
No. We need it before then to get it to the newspapers. What the committee has to understand is we need time to get it to the newspapers because the Evangelist publishes every 2 weeks. It's not as simple as getting it to council and then we get it to the newspapers. We need to time this correctly where the drop deadline for, if the committee moves forward tonight, the absolute drop deadline would be the day after the meeting on the 13th, which would be the 14th. Absolute drop
Okay,
deadline.
that's fine.
Why don't we just put a provided however in here somewhere, that provided however such language shall be distributed, you know, by that date.
Look, we've had 2 hearings on this already. We've gone through the entire bill. These amendments are, in my opinion, minor. These amendments aren't game changers to this local law. And we've had plenty of people talking about this local law. And this is a minor, as far as I can see, 2 minor changes. One, because of the Chamber of Commerce, we don't want sexual predators to be eligible here. I don't want them either to be eligible. So there's a clause that will amend it on it. But, this thing is going through the ringer already with 2 hearings. And I'm asking for another one because, that's the process. I'm making it a concession.
All right, this one's beat to death, so.
If you don't get it by May 14th, what happens?
If we don't get it by May 14th, there'll be nothing to give to the newspapers, and you're going to delay it another
We'll go to
month.
the next one.
And there's been an issue in the last few months of this type of thing happening, which has delayed it because we haven't gotten it in time. So it's very important, if this is the committee's decision, that we receive the law by the 14th, otherwise it'll be delayed yet another month.
I would probably put an amendment here and say, provide, you know, on Tuesday, April 23rd, 2019, provided such amendments are provided to the office of...
You gotta amend that date too.
No, they're provided to the Office of Majority and Minority Council
But-
and the members of the legislature.
That's your amendment. I was going to say that.
Well, you don't think the members should have an opportunity
Well,
to see the language?
I'd go through our office. I have
Well-
confidence that they're going to disseminate the information to me in a timely manner. That's-
Do we know what the correct
Well,
date
you
would be?
said
for the
Majority
hearing?
Council.
Well, I can finish. I would never leave you guys out.
Okay, well,
Because that's the, are we doing
Squeeze me.
stuff that last week because of...
May 1st.
So,
When are you going to have this
Maybe
ready?
have it by, Doug, when can you
the
have the
meeting would be the
language together?
28th, would be the
Doug.
28th, May 28th.
When can you have?
We'll be doing
the
public hearings on the
language
28th, even though we got
Next
Memorial Day that
May
week.
1st,
I believe
you
so,
have
but I
lots of time. Can't you have it by May 3rd,
have the calendar.
Possibly,
next Friday?
possibly.
if you submit the language to Majority and Minority Council by May 3rd, I would be happy to go along with that.
Okay.
You wanna put it in there,
Why don't
May
we have a
3rd?
gentleman's
do it by
agreement to do
No,
that?
put it in the resolution.
How about a little bit more time?
I'd like a little bit more time.
All right, so May 10th, that's Friday.
And when's the public hearing, would it be?
The 28th.
It's
28th.
2.5
So that's 2.5 weeks, that's fine.
2.5
It's-
weeks.
May
it's-
10th?
May 10th,
Make that.
Okay.
thank you.
So
You'd
what's,
have to have it by the 13th anyway, so it's not...
Yeah,
So
so
it
we
went
can.
3 days.
All right.
Chris, what is the exact amendment? What's the motion, what's the amendment?
I would
you made?
move to amend this to say, on Tuesday, April, we have to amend the date, so I'd move to amend the date.
After the last sentence here?
April 28th, I would amend the date, and then after 2019,
May 28th.
comma,
May 28th, yeah.
I would put provided, however, comma, such amendments are provided to the offices of Majority and Minority Council
By May 10th.
by May 3rd.
Close the business.
Okay.
Close of business.
Greenwich Mean Time.
I'll tell you, these words just flow out of my mouth.
So we need a second on that amendment. Okay, now you need a vote, all in favor of that?
All in favor of the amendments?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, amendment passes unanimously.
Okay, now we need a vote on it as amended.
We have a motion to vote on this as amended. Thank you, Ms. Cunningham, and seconded by Mr. Higgins. All in favor?
Aye.
This would
Any
create my name.
opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Thank you.
We just need a comment there.
Okay, yeah. And we'll need to table item 25, because the clerk's office is not represented this evening. Thank you.
Motion.
May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you.
Please note, say
Aye.
Second, all in
authority.
favor?
You never stop working for the
Thank you,
dormitory
everybody.
authority, you just
Have a
stop
nice
getting
evening.
paid.
It's true.